In a moment, Scylla and I are going to have a conversation in front of you. Scylla's going to tell me about an issue she's feeling concerned about, and I have no idea what it is. So this conversation is completely unrehearsed. My role is to try to model how to listen effectively. But before we do that, we'll run through 5 steps for what's called reflective listening. Reflective listening is based on a lot of research, and that's what I'm going to try and use.
So the first step is to try to put yourself in your partner's shoes. Our partner may be struggling to express themselves. They may not be used to doing so, or they may only be just working out their feelings as they talk. So don't rush them, and don't be afraid of silences. We're trying to understand their perspective.
The second step is to acknowledge what they've said. When you've listened to what your partner wants to say, reflect back what they've said to you. Reflecting back means saying back to them the main points you've heard, including any feelings they've expressed. Now, at this stage, you're not agreeing or disagreeing or giving your own opinion. Your turn to do that will come later. Reflecting back has 2 benefits. First of all, it helps us find out if we've really understood what our partner has told us. And secondly, it helps them know if they've been understood. Now, it'll probably feel awkward or contrived when you first do it, and it certainly did for me. I had to resist saying what I thought while Scylla was speaking. I had to restrain myself from wanting to give my side of the story. But we know now from our own experience that reflecting back makes a big difference when we show our partner we've understood what they've said, and it can make a big impact on our relationship.
The third step is to ask your partner, what's the most important part of what you've been saying? This helps them to focus, and people often talk around an issue that matters a lot to them. So wait quietly while they think about what they want to say. And then when they've spoken, reflect back again what you've heard. So often we think that being a good conversationalist is all about having an interesting view or a fascinating story to tell. But asking the right questions is what enables deep conversation.
And then the 4th step is help them work out what they might do. Ask them, what would you like to do, or perhaps like me or like us to do, about what you've just said? And rather than giving advice or telling our partner what we think they should do, it's 100 times more powerful if we draw out their ideas of what they'd like to do about the situation. Now, maybe they don't need to do anything. Sometimes talking it out is enough.
And then the 5th step is to ask a final question. Is there anything else that you'd like to add? Now, don't assume you know everything. Give your partner time and space to talk about the issue that they've raised.
We're going to try to give you an example of what effective listening looks like and sounds like. To remind us whose issue is being discussed, the person who's speaking holds something. We'll use this paper table napkin, so Scylla gets to hold it as it's her issue we're focusing on. My role is to listen and respond appropriately. So, here goes. So, my darling, what would you like to talk about?
Well, just before I start talking, I just need to say to everybody out there to give them a bit of context about the issue I'm going to bring up. In a few months' time, Nikki and I are actually going to be moving out of the house that we have lived in for 34 years, where our children all grew up in from when they were very little, and we are downsizing. So that just gives you a context for the issue. So the thing that I just really wanted to talk to you about is us moving. And it's really, I've realized I've been kind of worrying around the difference between you and me when it comes to the whole thing. So you, with your over-optimism, think it's all going to happen just like that. And me being much more of the realist, I kind of am thinking, actually, he hasn't a clue, because there's really a lot to do. Like, we've lived in this house for 34 years, and we're downsizing. So clearing it up and moving, it's not just a question of the movers coming, filling the van and moving it. We have got to do a lot of decision making, giving stuff away, throwing stuff away, and all of that. And I just feel your over-optimism and my realism are really in contention. And there are two things. I just feel stressed by your over-optimism because you're not taking into account the reality. But the other thing is I feel when we've had conversations, your sort of over-optimism slightly is dismissive of my realism. And that's what I feel. I feel you don't really see it from my perspective in a kind of positive way. It's just like that mine is always a kind of, oh, yes, but. So I feel a bit sort of like dismissed, and that you don't really think that mine is a kind of genuine position to hold. So yours is the position that's really the kind of one that matters, and mine is just to, okay, she'll come round to my perspective in a minute.
So, let me see if I've understood. It's to do with moving out of our house that we've lived in for the last 34 years. And you're worried because I tend to be very over-optimistic about being able to get everything done, whereas you're much more realistic about the amount of clearing up we need to do, stuff we need to throw away or give away or whatever it is. And you said you were concerned that I tend to sort of slightly dismiss your realism because I'm so over-optimistic. I sort of dismiss it whenever you bring up about being worried about the amount of time it's going to take and what it's going to involve. So is that right?
Yes,
right?
And also that I feel stressed.
Yes.
The more you don't sort of give recognition to it, it makes me feel more stressed because I think he hasn't a clue what it's going to take to get this house moved.
So you're feeling stressed because you think I don't have a clue of what it involves. Yeah. So what's the most important part of what you're saying?
Well, I think it's because I feel I'm always on the negative side. Yours is the positive side because you're over-optimistic. So wherever I'm coming from always seems to be like the negative side, and I feel I'm always on the defensive. And I think that's at the heart of it because, I'm not on the defensive. I'm excited, but I feel my position always seems to be a negative one, undermining yours, which is more optimistic. But I know as a realist, there's going to be a lot to do. So I think that's right at the heart of it.
So the most important part of it is you feel dismissed. You feel your perspective is dismissed because mine is the sort of more positive, optimistic side. You feel like yours is more negative because you're more realistic.
And I feel I'm always on the defensive.
Yes. Yeah, so you feel on the defensive, yeah. So what would you like to do, or perhaps like me to do, or like us to do about what you've just said?
I think it's us. I think what we've got to do, which we really haven't done, is to do some planning. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but I think we've got to put some dates in our calendar because I think you think, oh, well, we're just a couple of Saturdays and it'll be sorted. I think it needs planning to take some time off work, and we've got to think seriously about, what furniture we've got to give away and what stuff we've got to chuck away. We need to do some lists. We need to do some planning in the calendar to get it just into action, and we haven't got very long.
So what you'd like to do is for us to sit down with our calendars and to plan in some time. And whereas I think it'll take a couple of Saturdays and we'll get it sorted, we need time. We need to take time off work in order to be able to work out what we give away, what we throw away, and what we keep.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to say?
Well, I just don't want you to feel that I am not excited about it, feeling negative about it, or I don't want to be stressed about it. So that's why it's been so helpful to talk, because I want you to know I'm really positive and I do want to be optimistic, but I think it needs some practical, realistic planning and talking a bit more about it together.
So you don't want me to think you're not excited about moving in the future and so on, but having this sort of conversation and then planning what we do helps you not to feel stressed and me to be more realistic. Is that it?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, we'll have a go.
Thank you.
Thank
you so much.
Not at all.